Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. All members are present. Approval of the minutes. You see them in your packet of the September 1st, 2021 regular meeting. Is there any changes, corrections needed to those minutes?
Did you want to approve the agenda first?
Oh, yeah.
I suppose we could do that. I already crossed that
I
off.
thought September
Okay.
1st seemed,
Approval of the agenda first. I'm jumping ahead. We have two additions onto the agenda. We have 7N, approve resolution 2021-97, awarding the quote for the airport hangar door project. And under new business, we have compost site hours. Is there any other changes or additions to the council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with those two additions?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shallon. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now approval of the minutes of the September 1st, 2021 regular meeting. Is there any changes, corrections, or clarification needed? If not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the September 1 meeting?
Motion to, I'll second it. Heidi just first.
I'll make the
by
motion.
Heidi, seconded by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Public open forum is now. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone that would like to speak to the council?
That concerning, I know you're familiar with that, would that be a time to bring it up now, my issue with that 1065 Getty Street?
Yeah, you can come up and state what
Come
you,
on.
go up to the podium and then just explain to us.
Well, you know, when I bought that, I looked at it, I bought a house, needed to buy a house. I looked at this property at 1065 Getty Street in March, and they looked at it and I said, well, for me to buy it, I gotta build a garage. I have to build a garage. So I figured, well, I'll tear this one down, and if I can build a new one, so I asked the owner where the property lines were. So he showed me, well, it turned out we weren't quite there. He was in the right area code, but that was about it. I mean, it was, so I couldn't build a garage without buying some property from Brian Boyer. So anyway, then I find out on the east-west, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, on the east-west line, east and west, the alley past Boyer, we thought it was a 5-foot setback. Well, it turns out Sarah informed me that it's 15 foot. So then I had to apply for a variance. And that went through, that was great. So then I thought I was home free. I was gonna buy that land from Boyer. Then I could build a garage on the existing property line. This where this garage is, I had to tear it down because you have to back out in the street. You can't turn around here. So they put proposed on there. Well, no, I was never gonna build it there. I didn't even know they put proposed. I was always gonna build it here so I could back out and turn around instead of backing all the way to the street. See, there's only 12 feet here. I mean, I even have enough brains where I wouldn't build something where I got 12 feet and the car is 19 feet long. So it was always meant to be here. So when I got the variance, I was gonna build it here, all the way back to that line, because then I would own this land from Boyer, that little garden. So I wouldn't have to stay with the 5-foot setback. I could build right on the property line. So that was all well and good until I was standing out there one day and I thought, now, is there a problem here? Because the variance only pertains to this. So I called Sarah. And I said, are we gonna have an issue here? And that's when Sarah came out, and she said, yeah, what you're going to have to do, and I think Sarah will verify it, you're gonna have to either buy a little more land or cut your corner of your garage off when you build it. You're gonna have to build your garage and you have to cut the corner off, because that does not meet that setback here. So I thought, well, I talked to the surveyor. Before I could buy this land, I had to have it surveyed. So I talked to the surveyor and I said, how much of this land would I have to buy? How much more would I have to buy? How much more would I have to buy here to continue this line so I wouldn't have to cut that garage off? And he calculated 5.5 feet. That variance would have to extend another 5.5 feet. And then I wouldn't have to cut the corner garage off. So that's what he did. He surveyed it, and he gave me an additional 5.5 feet. He extended this property line 5.5 feet. So that way, I could build this garage right here. I wouldn't have to cut the corner off. I could build it, and then I could, and then then idea was I've got like 39 feet here. It's still tight. I can back out and I can turn in front of the house here, turn around. But it's tight, but I can still make it. Brian was over today. We looked at it. We can make it, but you don't have a lot of room to spare. So, so when we went into the planning commission, and I guess we all approve extending that variance 5.5 feet, but they didn't, and I'm not real sure why. I mean, it was 120 feet.
Did you buy that whole lot, that whole garden lot?
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Okay, so that's more than 5 feet though, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
but that line jogged in. This
Right.
line jogs in.
Yeah, the property lines don't
It
match.
jogs in like 5 feet, so he just extended this line 5 feet.
Mhm.
So idea was so I could build a garage without cutting it off, cutting the corner off.
All
But a
right.
lot of people don't realize, that's why we're hoping somebody would stop out, because this garage right here, if I move it any farther forward, I mean, right here, I just can't, you can't turn. You just absolutely, you gotta back out all the way to the street, and that's kind of what we're really trying to get away from.
Okay,
So that was kind of the issue here.
all right. Well,
At
when
least,
we get to that
hope-
point, then we got the information from
Okay.
him.
okay,
We can go from there.
thanks for listening.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Call the third time. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council? Our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. We'll then move on to reports and presentations. Our police chief isn't here, so we will just go to Public Works Department. Ben?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the past month, East Street and Angel Drive, the mill and overlays have been completed. We did install new street signs on those areas as well. Those roads turned out good. I think everybody's happy with how they look, and Mark Lee did a good job. We did have a second bad storm hit at the end of August, which caused more trees to go down that needed to be cleaned up over a couple-week period. We got all the trees cut up and cleaned up, completed the stump grinding and seeding of the areas where the trees were. We also did some street sweeping to clean up the streets where there was a lot of debris. Some sidewalks had to be removed and replaced due to the trees tipping in the boulevard. So all that's been completed. The stormwater pond that's east of the credit union had part of the hillside wash into the bottom of the pond due to all the water. There was probably 15, 20 yards of material that had to be scraped out, put back in place. New black dirt was put in, seeded, blanketed, so that's all repaired now. The day-use dock sustained some damage from the storm. We're working with the insurance company on this. The band shell lost some shingles, and the library had some water get into the ceiling on the north wing. We're also working with the insurance company on these items. The seasonal employees are now done in the park department for the year. The outdoor rink fencing on the south end is all that's left to complete the project, which is scheduled for tomorrow. The arena, this past weekend of the 11th, there was a rental that caused some damage to the front of the building again. If you remember back in July, same thing happened. Another glass door got shattered, and the new door that was put on to replace the broken one from July was ripped open. It broke the latch on the frame, and actually put a permanent bend in the door, in the new door from top to bottom. There was a lot of rocks thrown across the parking lot and the softball field as well. Tires were dragged from the softball field into the gravel parking lot area to the west of the arena. And then there was a decoration in the landscaping up there that was destroyed as well. So we did order 2 new doors to replace the broken ones, and we are working with the renter as far as insurance and payment and getting that all taken care of. But it wasn't a good rental, and it seems to be happening frequently enough. So something to consider in the future. The splash pad, we did close that on Monday of this week for the season. We're starting to work on the end-of-season winterizing procedures for that, and then we're working on making some plans for some campground work to take place here as soon as that closes down at the end of the month. So, any questions I can answer for you?
Is the renter for the arena, are they getting billed for the cleanup outside
Correct. They're
in the
getting-
parking lot too?
Yep.
As I
All-
drove by and it looked like there was a lot of debris and garbage
So on
dumped
Sunday,
everywhere.
I went there and the parking lot was covered in garbage. And Sunday night, they came back and cleaned that up themselves, not the rocks and the dirt and everything else, but they did clean up their garbage anyways. It still doesn't make it okay because they're not supposed to be out there in the first place. They rent the inside of the building, not the outside.
Right.
But yes, they are getting billed for all of our time for extra cleanup of the rocks and the glass and boarding up the front door and fixing the other door for temporary and all that stuff. So that's all part of it in addition to the doors that are getting replaced.
Okay. I don't know if you can state it, but is there any, does the police department have anything they're charging for, doing charges against the renter for any of that?
I do not know the answer to that.
You would have to prove individually who did the damage for a charge,
Okay,
and that's kind of possible.
okay. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, Ben, that holding pond behind the credit union.
Yep.
My kid and I, we drove past there and there was a rather a heavy-set lady in a bathing suit with a little kid swimming in there after the
I
rainstorm.
believe it. It was
I
full.
was shocked.
Yes.
I should have got a picture. Okay, thank you, Ben.
I guess maybe just with the arena, maybe there, I mean, I guess it's just to avoid it, I mean, adjusting rates or damage deposits, I mean, is that something that is an option or?
That is an option. I think you need to look at whether we want to continue to do these types of rentals at all.
Okay.
They're typically problematic.
Okay, because I'm assuming, well, noise complaints and things in that neighborhood are
Yep,
prevalent during these type of events are,
that's correct, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
Brian, Police Department report?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for August 2021, some of the numbers we had, we gave out 233 verbal warnings. We did 50 door checks. We had 129 foot patrols. We had 6 vehicle accidents. We had 15 medicals. We did 23 personal assist. We had 11 alarms. Did 12 welfare checks. We had 16 suspicious activity calls, 4 unwanted person calls, 21 road hazard calls, and that was due to the storm. We had 47 assists for other agencies. We had 35 citizen contacts, 23 matter of information calls. So total verbal warnings of 233, we had a total number of calls of 590 for 823 calls. And compare that to 2020, we're up slightly on ICRs, down on warnings. And then compare that to July, we're down considerably for calls, 177, and warnings were only down 8, so pretty comparable. The storm, I think went relatively well. the electricity went off before the sirens went, so two sirens worked on battery power. So that was the reason why all the sirens didn't go off. So we just have the two that are battery power. So that got knocked out before the early dawn on their end. So otherwise, I think everything went relatively well with the fire department and everybody coming out to help PUC and Public Works, and everybody did a good job that day. I think clearing the storm up and the flooding. We had considerable flooding that we haven't seen in a long time, so I think it went rather well. So,
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
and just a note on that arena issues with the vandalism and damage that's been going up there. I guess as a council and city, I would really consider who we're renting that out to with the juveniles that are up there. I think there's a lot of juvenile drinking that's going on up there and just fights. I think for a city to have that in one of their buildings and that going on, I think should be considered, strongly considered to maybe not be doing it if we're going to continue to have that kind of stuff. So just an opinion from my end.
Brian, do you get called on those cases, or do you patrol?
We patrol it and walk it, and we try to get up there when we can, or, if we don't have other calls, and we see it, and, we try to do the best we can. But, it's going on. I'm sure, there's juveniles drinking, but you got parents up there that are, with the situation, and to try to pinpoint and who's doing what is kind of, and there's fights going on, but we're never called to them, so, but we know what's happening. But you hear after the fact, a lot of after the fact stuff.
Just the noise violations are probably what you get more calls from the neighbors, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's loud, I can tell you that.
yeah. Then the garbage the next day until they
Right.
get it picked up. I think they've been doing pretty good picking it up, but still the way it looks overnight until they get it cleaned up the next day. So, just a thought.
Okay,
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
thank you. Planning Commission report, Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have a copy of the Planning Commission agenda, and our Planning Commission meeting was yesterday afternoon. And we had two public hearings. One was for a variance, and the other one was for the City of Sauk Center for platting Industrial Park South, and those are two action items later on your agenda. We also had discussion about if the Planning Commission, if we wanted to look into the possibility of having private roads in our community for development, and at this time, the city code does not allow that, and after that discussion, it was decided that the Planning Commission chose not to change the code at this time. And you also have a copy of the building permit report, and this past month, we had $13 million worth of building value, but $12 million of that is for the nursing home expansion and remodel, so it's a tax exempt permit. And a year ago at this time, we had 9 permits for $83,000. Any
Okay.
questions?
Questions, comments?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City engineer report, Keith?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have an update on a few projects for you tonight. The 2020 Capital Improvements Project, the Elm Street project, is noted here. They did finalize the final, some turf restoration adjustments they did this week, as well as some curb work and some concrete work that needed to get repaired. That was done this week. All punch list items are taken care of. There really is nothing left at this point other than we extended the warranty on the turf until next spring. So we'll take a look at it again next spring. If everything's going well, we'll close out the project at that point. So that's where that project is at. The Information Center or Aerosmith Plat 3 site, things are moving along, not as quickly as I would like, but they're moving along. Most things are completed at this point in time. They're supposed to be back in town finishing up the Barrow site and kind of restoring that site tomorrow. then be back on the actual Aerosmith site on Friday and starting to do kind of that final grading on a few areas on there, backfilling behind the curbs and the sidewalk and those kinds of things. There's a small berm that goes in the pond yet and some riprapping that goes over top of that. That's part of the watershed permit, so that needs to get taken care of. So they're getting close, but it's kind of that final grading restoration stuff that's left, as well as seeding. So that's what's left on that project. I haven't been able to get a specific time frame as to when they're going to complete that all. Suggested perhaps next week, so we'll see where that goes, but that's where things are at this point. The South Industrial Park project, that project is nearing completion on the plans and specs. We're looking to go to bids pretty soon. In fact, that's one of your action items here tonight. We are adding a right turn lane into the project that came up from MnDOT, so that's something that is being added to the plans and specs as well. Hopefully we'll have that done by the end of next week and be ready to go out for bids on that project. So we're getting pretty close on that one. Really waiting for the borrow site to get repaired because I have to do a topo on that so that I can finish the quantities for the South Industrial Park project for the grading, because those all tie hand in hand. So hopefully they'll get that completed tomorrow so we can get that taken care of. So with that, I'll address any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions, concerns?
So with the turf warranty extended until the spring, is that just because of the dryness of the
Just
summer?
dryness,
Okay.
right, yep, that's correct. Hopefully everything will, we're starting to have some rain now. Hopefully
Right.
everything this fall will take off, so it'll be in good shape next spring. But we'll want to look at it one last time so that make sure the residents are happy with what's out there.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Airport Board Report. Vicky?
So the airport board met on Wednesday, September 8th. It's a regular session. We are still waiting for the final payment from MnDOT on the zoning update, and that is because we're having some issues with getting that ordinance recorded at Stearns County. I think we have it figured out this time. On the 2021 Airfield maintenance project that is underway right now, the airport has been closed intermittently. We had some pavement marking removals last week, and then seal coat application this week, and then reconstruction and marking next week. So they close it, and we do a NOTAM and closes the airport for those activities that are going to take place. Also, as part of that same grant is the land acquisition environmental assessment. That grant paperwork has all been signed by the FAA. We're just waiting for our final copy back from MnDOT Aeronautics. So you can see the final funding for those projects for this year. Total of $371,928.08, of which the city share is $21,826. So 5.9% of that project is funded by the city, the balance FAA and state. We do have an entitlement fund balance. In other words, our allocation that we get allocated from the FAA of $150,000 a year. You can accumulate up to $600,000 and then it starts falling off the back end. In 2022, we'll have a balance of $572,946. We either can put that into projects, we can loan it to another community, or we can just let it fall off the backside and then it goes back to anywhere in the country through the FAA. We do have a state grant for the hangar door upgrades. That paperwork has been submitted to MnDOT, and I do have add to the agenda tonight is that award of the bids for those hangar upgrades. We'll talk about that a little bit at that time. And the board also discussed the potential construction of a box hangar. We have the 2 T hangars of 11 units each, and we are full and have a waiting list. T hangars are becoming because of materials, very expensive to build, and so we're looking at the option of a box hangar that a single renter with like 3 planes could have it, and if we could get that, because we do have a renter that has three T hangars, he could move into that. It would free up 3 T hangars for other renters, and we think that that would be a better way to go than looking at a new T hangar right now, and we're going to discuss that more at our next meeting, because we're just getting some preliminary ideas of what that would look like. So my only action tonight would be on that hangar door upgrade bid award later on the agenda.
Okay. Questions, concerns? Okay, we'll move on to action items. 7A, approve pay request number 1, Mark Lee Excavating.
So Mark Lee Excavating has completed the 2021 street reclamation project for Anjo Drive and portions of East Street, and I'm sure you've noticed that that has been completed. We had a total cost of the project of $157,761 that they have earned, and we're recommending a 5% retainage of $78,8805, leaving a net pay request of $149,872.95. The reason for that withholding is simply so that we can get all the final paperwork in the IC-134 file before we release the balance of the money. So what we're looking for is to approve pay request 1 for the 2021 street project to Mark Lee Excavating.
Any questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve the pay request number 1?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Shellen, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve advancement of EMT.
Kathy Strufert, the ambulance director, has submitted a request for the advancement of Richard White from a probationary EMT to an EMTB level 1 for their service. While on probation with the service, he has had favorable reviews. He has well exceeded his patient contacts required, and he takes active call and is available for backup on a regular basis. So based on that, she is requesting that we approve the advancement of Richard White to EMTB level 1 effective September 15th, 2021.
Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the advancement of Richard White?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7C, approve resolution 2021-89, adopting the 2022 preliminary budget.
So this is the preliminary budget that followed the budget workshop that you held last week. This has been updated from what we discussed at the meeting. This has a general fund budget of $4.395 million, special revenue of $3.38, TIF budget of $650,000, debt service of $1.594 million, and capital projects of $9.141. I know that capital projects is a large number, but remember we have that included in the budget. The 2022 Second Street project was about $5.8 million, and then of course the South Sauk Center Industrial Park. So that takes up the bulk of those 2 projects. So our total expenses for 2022 is $19,161,192.38. And that is laid out by department and fund in Resolution 2021-89.
Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-89?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2021-90, adopting 2022 preliminary levy.
So this levy is just the tax portion of that $19 million budget. The total levy proposed is $2,092,267. The City Council did recommend a 6%, which would calculate to an increase of $118,430. Now, since that meeting, I did receive information from the county that we're estimated at a 4.8% growth, so leaving the difference between 4.8 and 6%, which would be your real increase. But we will actually see that in black and white in November when we actually get those formal numbers. This was kind of an informal research that I had done since that meeting. So of this budget, $1,507,000 is the general fund, and the balance is special revenue and debt service, for that total of $2,092,267.
Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-90?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Shellen, seconded by Heidi, or by Diane.
Diane.
I went by who I heard
That's
first.
fine.
So, Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resolution 2021-91 approving variance, Majeski.
This is the variance request for Mr. Majeski. He, 1065 Getty Street, he applied for that variance to allow the construction of a detached structure 6.9 feet from the side property line where the required setback is 15 feet. You do have a copy of the survey, and I believe he shared that with you earlier. A prior variance was granted at the same setback for his primary property. However, he has purchased additional to the rear and is requesting that same setback apply to that property as well, so he can push his structure further back on the lot. At the time that I had prepared the agenda, because the meeting for them was just last night, I did have a resolution in your packet granting the variance to him. Last night, as you're aware, the Planning Commission recommended denial of the variance. So you have in front of you 2 resolutions. One would be to grant, and one would be to deny it. The resolution is the same, except until you get to the back about the reasonings. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission reviewed the proposal, and their proposal was to deny it because they didn't see a practical difficulty because the property size allows for the proposed structure to be constructed while maintaining the established setbacks without the need for a variance. So that was kind of the direction that they were going. On the flip side of it, you do have the findings that they had initially found on the first variance, talking about the fact that it's adjacent to a commercial lot that's kind of unique, and then some other things unique about that property. So at this point, you're going to have to make that decision whether you would grant that variance or deny it. So you'll have to select one of those resolutions. But the Planning Commission did recommend that it be denied due to the fact that they felt with the purchase of the additional property that he could move the garage farther to the east and north in order to make those setbacks.
Questions? Concerns?
So tract A is also,
That's his
Yes.
now.
it's also?
That's what, if you looked in some of the research, we called it kind of the garden lot. That's where the garden is
Okay.
kind of back up there.
The initial variance, according to the survey that was brought to the Planning Commission before he had purchased that, was that where that says lean-to and garage, that was going to be torn down. And according to the survey that was presented to the Planning Commission at that time, that was going to be the footprint of the new building.
Right, I kind of remember our discussion being,
And since it was already at 6.9 feet from the line, the Planning Commission granted the variance and the council adopted it because it's already at that distance. Now, as you can see on the map, the proposed 24 by 40 garage is moved farther to the east since he bought that tract A from Brian Boyer. The Planning Commission at that time figured since he's got the existing land that he could shift the building farther to the east and north, and there wouldn't be a need for a variance because he'd be able to meet the 15-foot setback.
That shed still exists?
The one on the left side of the picture?
Yeah, to
Yeah,
the
that one still exists. So basically, we've got, the first initial one was the garage lean-to areas where we understood where it was going to be built.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's been moved farther to the east, and there's more land. So the Planning Commission couldn't really see a reason, to grant a
Right.
variance because what's the hardship other than having to walk a few more feet to get to your house? And so That's kind of where we're at.
Well, and the further, to me, the further you shift it over to the north, like you're saying, I mean, then you're possibly having to even tear down another building if that shed still exists, right?
Well, and the planning commission last night looked at that. If it is built there and it's moved 15 feet off that property line to meet that setback and then moved farther east, it can be moved farther east to avoid blocking that other building.
Well, if it's truly a garage, I mean, now you're driving way back. I don't know, I guess
The main garage is going to be the 24 by 40.
Could I just, for those of you that aren't familiar with this situation on this lot, is that it's a residential lot that would typically have that 5-foot setback on the rear and the side. But we had put in our ordinance some years ago that when two opposing zoning districts abut, a commercial and a residential, that the more strict setback applies. And that is kind of the driveway out to Getty Street for Boyer, so that's commercial. So that's really the crux of the problem here, is because it abuts that commercial lot. Oh, the reason that the city did that some years ago was somebody who had a commercial lot with a 0% setback, like from downtown, against a residential. And we didn't want him to be able to build at that 0 setback from the residential line. So the idea was he would have to meet the residential setback, which is more restrictive. This is the flip side, applying it here. This time, the commercial is more restrictive, so the residential lot doesn't have the same setback as a normal residential lot would because it's adjacent to that commercial driveway. So that's kind of why we're having this discussion to begin with, to kind of give you a little backstory on that setback requirement.
so really, if we were in a residential area, it wouldn't make much of a difference anyway,
If that
right?
was a residential lot next to him and not that commercial driveway for Boyer, he would be able to build it at 5 feet with an over-the-counter permit.
Okay,
If we approve this, is this going to set a precedent? Will we have to do it for everybody that wants it? That's the question.
I think our residential abutting commercial is really only affecting on that south side of town. We don't have a whole lot else to deal with, so the precedents, I don't think, would go far.
well, I guess to me, maybe I have a wrong interpretation of this. That ordinance is more to protect the residential homeowner, correct?
It was designed to protect the residential from the commercial, but in this situation, it's the commercial that's more restrictive, so.
So to me, in that situation, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with approving this.
Okay. One of the planning commission basically was looking at it because the way we understand it as a planning commission, you have, before variances can be granted, you have to show a hardship. Now, with the purchase of the extra land and the ability to meet setbacks, that's where, how do you prove a hardship on a variance when
Yeah.
we've set that precedence before? We never gave variance because there was no hardship, unless they can. Not right now. So, it's just one of those, that's the reason why he's appealing. I'm just trying to explain what the planning commission's.
Right. Well, and I respect the work that the planning commission did, so I mean.
Right. So, it's up to the council right now.
The issue that he was describing during public comments was that the design is so that he can back out and turn around within his own property, not have to back straight out onto Getty Street, correct?
Right.
So it's a design issue, but not it's basically what you're hoping to get out of this project, but doesn't necessarily demonstrate a technically.
The only way I can build a garage and back out and turn, instead of backing all the way up the street, is if I be able to build it that far back. And I know people said you could build it farther back, but I stepped out of the house right now, where this garage is going to be built, it's got 60 feet. And I mean, if it starts moving it any farther back, it gets to be, really isn't like a garage anymore, it's supposed have me move it north because I won't be able to get the door open on my workshop. And just kind of between the rock and hard spot.
So your workshop is the shed
Mhm.
on this. And so you have a south-facing door?
And the existing garage and lean-to will be tore down.
Pardon?
The existing garage and carport will be tore down, even if it's moved back.
But he's saying that he would not be able to get into his shed, which has a south-facing door, as I understand it,
Because of the south facing door.
Right.
if we were to require that 15-foot, which sets that shed.
So then that's where the
Further north.
planning commission figured, well, yeah, we understand that, but then they said you can always move it farther east into that lot and still make access for that other shed. So it's the determination of what you consider a hardship or not a hardship
Yeah.
based, and that's what the planning commission had gone by. So.
Then to the point, I kind of wonder, I mean, where's your garage or whatever? I mean, if it truly is a garage and you're putting it way back here, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, even for future homeowners, I mean, if you're driving a car and you're parking all the way back here,
He does make a good point. It's not a garage part of the house. It could, if it's too far east, it becomes an outbuilding.
right,
But, you know, the original plan was the 6.9 setback, because the original one was that close. So I can see it both ways, but I can't make a motion.
Well, in all reality, I mean, if he wouldn't have bought that other lot, we wouldn't be having this discussion either,
Right.
Right.
you know, so,
It would have been.
you know, he would have, you know, had the variance. So, and the fact that we're putting a more restrictive commercial rule on him in a residential area where everyone else would be 5 feet, you know, I can see why he'd want to benefit, you know, a lot of the points Shalyn raised. So I'll make the motion to approve the variance.
I'll second. I mean, I feel like the hardship would be the fact that he's in the zoning. I think that's the hardship for me.
Okay. A motion by Joe, seconded by Shalyn to approve the variance. Is there any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Hey,
Okay. Motion carries 3 in favor, 2 against.
Okay.
7F, approve resolution 2021-92 approving preliminary and final plat of South Sauk Center Industrial Park.
So the Planning Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, September 14th, to consider the approval of the preliminary plat and final plat of South Sauk Center Industrial Park. The property is owned by the city. It's currently under development. The plat will create 6 lots with the potential of 1 lot being split into 2 for a total of 7 lots. The proposed use of the land is industrial with a focus on manufacturing and warehousing. The use is in compliance with the deed grant that the city received that will share part of the cost. In addition to the preliminary plat, I said the final plat is also proposed. The plat approval is required by deed so that a declaration can be filed indicating that the city owns or has easement rights over the infrastructure that is proposed to be installed with the grant funding. So what we have in front of you is Resolution 21-92 approving the preliminary and final plat of South Sauk Center Industrial Park.
Okay. Questions? Concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-92?
make the motion.
Motion by Diane. Do I have a
Second.
Second by Heidi. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7G, approve purchase of wetland credits,
South Sauk Center.
South Sauk Center Industrial Park.
There you go.
There.
So during
Too
the
many
surveying and the
abbreviations.
development of the South Sauk Center Industrial Park, the wetlands were delineated. 2 of the wetlands will be left to function as they have. However, the 3rd wetland is located inside the proposed storm pond.
Because the wetland will become a storm pond, the city has the option to purchase wetland credits to offset the loss of the wetland. They look at storm sediment as fill, so we've had this conversation before where if you want to put stormwater in a wetland, you have to buy wetland credits because now you're converting it from a wetland. So the engineer reached out to various wetland banks and has secured an offer from one wetland bank owner that has remaining credit. The price is $87,120 per acre. We need 0.14 acres or $12,196.80. This price plus the fee to Bowser, which is the Board of Water and Soil Resources of $321.16, results in a total cost of $12,517.86. Closing on the sale is proposed to be October 29th, 2021. So you'll see on the aerial overlay there, I put that circle around that little piece of wetland. That's dead center in the middle of the storm retention area that we are constructing. So what we're looking to do is to authorize execution of the purchase agreement and the closing documents for the purchase of these wetland credits.
Questions?
This is just a one-time fee, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns? Do I have a motion to authorize the execution of the purchase agreement?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Shallen.
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7H, approve resolution 2021-93 authorizing advertisement for bids.
So the city had previously reviewed the proposed construction plans for the South Sauk Center Industrial Park, and those final plans have been completed. They are ready for bid, and we do have a full set of plans available. The city engineer is requesting formal approval to authorize advertisement for the bid, with the bids to be opened until October 14th or 15th, whichever day. The 14th.
14th, okay.
Now, I will have one caveat here. I'm still waiting this week to hear back from DEED, just to make sure that all of the language is in the bidding documents that are required for the DEED grant. So, but as right now, we're looking to approve authorizing the advertisement for bids to be opened on that date, unless we have to pull it for some DEED restriction reason, and then we would come back for a new date.
Okay. Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-94?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7I, approve resolution 2021-94 adopting final assessment of street reclamation project.
So this is the Andrew Drive and East Street project. That work has been completed. You approved the payment of the bill to the contractor earlier this evening. We did prepare the final assessment roll. The final assessment is decreased from the preliminary proposal due to some cost savings on the project. The total amount assessed is $55,216.35 compared to the preliminary assessment of $62,196. I did include a copy of the assessment roll in your packet, so you can see that it ranges all the way from about 700 up to 1,100, up to, there's a few larger lots at about 1,500. So they have the opportunity to pay that in full by November 15th, or they can put it on their taxes payable and equal between 2022 and 2023 taxes. So people have the option to do that. Quite a few have already contacted us wanting just to pay it in full and be done with it. So I'm looking to approve resolution 21-94, adopting the final assessment for Andrew Drive and East Street.
Questions, comments?
What's the reasoning behind the blanks in the final assessment roll?
There's a couple of them that were assessed, they were a corner lot,
Okay,
and so they were assessed on the other street.
sure.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-94?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by
Second.
Shellen, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7J, approve resolution 2021-95, accepting copier bid.
So we currently lease our copiers. We have 2 in admin and 1 in PD. The lease has since expired. We had a 5-year lease on them. We exhausted that lease. We renewed it for 3 more years, so we've been keeping those same machines for 8 years. They are now needing to be replaced, however. The quotes were obtained for new machines to lease, and then we also had a purchase option was also requested. And then there's a maintenance contract for supplies and maintenance was also obtained. So on this list you have in front of you, the first 3 machines, they're a comparable bid. The second set of 2 is 2 larger machines and then a smaller machine for the police department due to reduction in need because they are gone pretty much electronic with most of their needs, so they don't need to have a machine that performs quite like that. So what we're looking at is to look at that second set of 2 and getting that less expensive machine for the police department. Now, we have compared a purchase with a lease, and you can see the first column is if we purchase, the second if we lease, and then the third is the maintenance per month, and that's based on our estimated copy usage. So when you do the math, if we focus on those 2 machines, those bottom machines, which is the smaller one for the police department, the purchase price is less for the Toshiba machine, but when you factor in the 5-year contract for maintenance, the Konica becomes the least expensive option. So, and it's simply because of the maintenance per month that they're going to charge us. Both firms are good firms. We've got good references from all of them, so I don't think we have a strong preference on what machine. We're familiar with the Konica machine and with Marco because they do other work with us as well. And so after going through all of this, the 5-year all-in total cost, if you consider the outright purchase and the maintenance, is less on the Konica machine for a total of $26,443.80. The MCSI, the Toshiba machine, is $27,066.40. So, they're pretty close, but when they're that close and both are comparable machines, I don't see any reason not to go with the least expensive option.
Questions, concerns?
Yeah, the 5-year maintenance on the Konica is $8,300, and on the Toshiba was $11,800, if you're doing math up there while you're thinking.
So we're looking at 1 machine. You mentioned we have 3 copiers.
We're looking at 3 machines.
3 machines.
2 large machines and 1 smaller machine for the police.
Which is included in this quote?
Yes.
Okay. So your suggestion is the Marco II Konica Minolta
With the purchase.
with a purchase?
Okay.
So the price includes both of them? Is that correct? Or would it be that
includes
price
all-
times
this- no,
2?
all 3 machines are included. This
Got
is
it.
everything. This is all 3 machines. This is a 5-year, all the maintenance and toner and all of that for a 5-year period.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-95 going with the Marco II?
I'll
Konica?
make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
And that-
Second.
Are you motioning to purchase or to lease?
To purchase.
Purchase? Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. More discussion?
And that was on the Marco and the Toshiba, correct?
Right.
Just the Marco II Konica Minolta?
Yeah.
The
3
Konica
machines.
The Konica Minolta
from Marco, yeah.
from Marco II.
The reason I have Marco too is Marco, the first bid is for 3 large machines, the second one is 2 large and 1 small.
Oh, okay, I understand.
That's the difference.
Okay. Any other questions? I have a motion and a second to purchase. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7K approved 2022 seasonal camping rates.
So the Park Board at September 7th meeting discussed various updates to the campground policies, which will come before the City Council at a later date. But one item that will need immediate action is establishing the 2022 rate for the seasonal camping. Campers will be leaving the campground in the next few weeks, and they're requesting their 2022 contract. They have until October 31st to inform the city whether they wish to return. The Park Board has recommended that the rate be set at $2,400. So that's what we're looking for tonight, is to establish the seasonal camping rate for 2022 at $2,400.
Questions?
I think that I did a little bit of research on some of the rates around the area, and I think that's pretty fair and in line with most of them. But one question I did have was, does that include electric?
Yes, it
Because okay, because some of them around this area in towns our size are a rate similar to that plus electric on top of it. So it might be something to look at in the future, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we did actually look at that, and Ben did some research, and it would cost about $400 per pedestal to upgrade it for the meters. And so at that point, the park board said, well, let's just stay away
Okay.
from that and just have a little more increase than they might normally have
Okay.
had. So
Okay.
that's where they came up with the
And the park
2,400.
board, I think we had 5 different research campgrounds that
Okay.
was brought to us so we could compare the pricing with the electrical, and everything was
Yeah.
done at that level, so.
And even here, this is a little bit lower than some other ones too.
Some of
So
the
I think
others.
we may even have room in the future, so.
Right, so. Okay, any other questions? Do I have a motion to establish the seasonal camping rate for 2022 at $2,400?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Shellen,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7L, approve resolution 2021-96, authorizing execution of closing documents.
So the park board, as well as at its September 7th meeting, discussed the future ball field improvements. One item needs to be concluded prior to formal planning for the improvements, which is the closing of the land acquisition for the project. Previously, the council approved executing the documents for the acquisition of additional land adjacent to the ball field currently owned by TriCap, which is that piece that says 351 on there. The committee has now secured a verbal agreement to acquire part of the property adjacent to the arena. This is the one with the orange dotted line. The owner has agreed to donate the property as long as the city covers the closing costs, including the survey, and that the surface water runoff be diverted away from the remainder of their property. So right now, where we're at with that is Stantec is working on the survey for that piece of property and establishing a legal description so we can go to closing. So what we're looking to do is to approve Resolution 2021-96, authorizing the execution of the closing documents.
Comments, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-96?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Heidi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7M, approve budget plan invasive species Sauk Lake.
So each year, the Big Sauk Lake Association presents its budget proposal for aquatic vegetation and invasive species management on the Big Sauk Lake. The budget is then included in the Sauk River Watershed District's budget. They are the holder of the funds from the former weed harvester project. The 2021 weed survey is the basis for this 2022 budget. You will see they had a CLP estimate of 40 acres, but that is actually limited by what the DNR. The DNR, some years will come back and say no treatment. Sometimes they'll say 20 acres, sometimes they'll say 40. According to the weed survey, they're recommending 40 in the budget. That doesn't mean they will be spending that. And then also, if you recall earlier this year, we agreed to amend the 2021 budget to include some carp management. And now in 22 is the balance of that project. So you will see that a total 2022 budget is proposed of $59,609, which includes the curly leaf pondweed treatment and the carp control budget. And so what they're looking for is to recommend that budget for invasive species management on Big Sauk Lake to the watershed.
Questions, concerns?
How much is left of this fund?
Approximately $185,000.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What do they do with the carp?
They actually load them up, and I think they take them to a processing plant, and,
Oh, good. They're great fertilizer for your garden, I know that.
but not at 40 ton at a time.
Oh, no, not that much. That would stink.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to recommend the 2022 budget for Big Sauk Lake?
I'll make the motion.
And the motion by Diane, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Shellen. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7N, approve resolution 2021-97 awarding quote for airport hangar door project.
So the airport board, on its 20-year capital improvement plan, has the replacement of door cables on the 2,000 T hangar. The cables will be replaced with straps. They had an estimated cost of the replacement at $145,000 at the time we applied for the grant. That we were selected for the project by MnDOT and being funded at 75%. The airport sought bids and they recommended they accept the grant, which was done at a prior meeting, but now we have finalized those bids and they have been reduced somewhat. We took some insulation off and the bid was for 12 doors when there's only 11. So the bidder, the successful bidder is Schweiss Door Company for $120,182.97. Midland Door Solutions, the other company that does this type of work, declined to bid. And for the electric side, we had two bids, one from Beam Electric for $2,200 and one from Essler for $99. So the airport board recommends the city proceed with the project, awarding the quote to Schweiss Door Company and Beam Electric.
Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-97?
Motion.
Motion by Diane, do a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no unfinished business. New business, we have compost site hours.
So I wanted to add this to the agenda because we have, quite a bit of narrative going on about the compost site. We've operated a permitted compost site and brush site at the Public Works Garage for many years. Up until 2008, the hours were open when Public Works employees were on duty and on Saturday mornings, and we did hire an attendant, was hired to monitor the site on Saturday mornings. Due to the demand for increased hours, the City Council decided that the site should remain open after hours and on weekends due to requests to be open more hours where residents are off work, and the site has operated that way for the last 13 years. Due to recent storm events, there's been substantial increase in brush logs and stumps hauled to the site. Oftentimes, they're being brought in from out of town. This results in extra staff time to push and compress the piles, sort out what can't be burned, and to ultimately monitor the eventual burn, which we have not been able to burn this summer because of the burn ban. We won't be able to do that until snow is on the ground. So that just kind of exacerbated the problem a little bit. We weren't able to keep the pile small. So on Saturday, September 4th, there were large loads being brought to the site, with the majority out of town, according to the police department, rather than from residents and taxpayers, and that prompted the police, contacted the mayor. Anyway, the site was closed, except during working hours until the time the city council could revisit it. So now we have a few options on the site. We can close the site, no longer offer the service to anyone. We can keep limited hours like it is right now, which is weekdays only. We could hire additional staff to monitor the site evenings and weekends. We could accept brush and compost from out of town and require a fee, which that would also require an attendant. We could investigate billing adjacent to communities or asking like Sauk Center Township to participate. Or we could reopen the site as we have been and just do more on community service ads to get the rules out, such as no stumps, no larger logs than 6 inches. So we have quite a few different options. I think we've kind of had a unique year with the storms and the drought. So it was kind of like a perfect storm, if you will, that really got the compost pile to be a little bit out of hand this year, simply because of the volume that we're getting and the people that are bringing it in. Now, I do know that people are finding a place to go because it's going somewhere, but also we have got a substantial amount of complaints that we don't offer that service anymore. So now it's up in front of you to kind of decide what the future of that compost and brush site will be.
Comments?
From what I heard, it's going to cost the citizens of Sauk Center $25,000 to grind up those stumps that are there.
What?
The stumps that are up there already. I mean, I've seen some of them stumps. They're 3 feet in diameter and 6 feet long, and they've got signs, nothing bigger than 6 inches. I mean, the people are dropping huge stumps up there. Now it's going to cost us a bunch of money to grind it.
I don't know about the 25,000. I hadn't heard that number before,
Yeah.
but it does cost. If we choose to grind it, there's a cost.
Yeah.
And the one thing about grinding is if you have a lot of large stuff, sometimes you can get a chipper to come in and grind it for the material. But we have majority of ours is smaller brush and they don't want those chips. because they're just not large enough for what they need them to do.
And that's only supposed to be for the citizens of Sauk Center, not the township or surrounding communities. Shoot, we had people bringing it down there from Long Prairie and Osakis.
One of the things that we got to clarify if we're going to have, if we do have it open, is we got to decide, you know, we say it's open to the city,
Right.
Sauk Center city residents. Well, there's a lot of people that think once they got the 56378 zip code, they're Sauk Center. And that's where we're getting it from outside in the township too, because, well, I have a Sauk Center address, that means I get to go. But they're not paying any taxes for maintenance or anything like that on top of it. So that's one of the things, if we're gonna open it, we're gonna have to clarify how we're gonna do that. I also think before next spring that if we're gonna have it open, we have to, any contractor that wants to is gonna have to buy a license to dump there, and it's gonna cost them a pretty good, you know, fee
Yeah,
to
yeah.
cover, to dump in there, and then they'll follow the rules or get their right to dump in there pulled. Other options, if we leave it, Ben had mentioned it's pretty expensive, but probably a key card, or we can issue a code, but then it will match the license plate of the vehicle going in, so I can't take my card that I paid for to dump in there and give it to one of you guys to go dump in there, and it prevents the cheating. But it's gonna have to be the same vehicle, and if they're gonna do a different vehicle, they gotta come in to get a change.
Yeah.
So, but that process with the camera and the key card is very expensive.
I know other cities are doing that. St. Michael, Minnesota does it that way too.
And I know Sartell does it too.
Sure.
But
We don't have the tax base as St. Michael or Sartell to cover the costs of stuff like that.
right,
But
but
some of the
right
same
now,
code- some of the
right
s-
now, we don't have the tax base and the cost to be covering chipping and grinding everybody else's
Yeah.
product for a 30-mile radius either.
I tried to see what some of the communities in Stearns County were doing, just as curious, and most of them don't do it, but I was seeing what the majority of them were communities in St. Cloud, and they have permits that they issue, and you have to put them on your vehicle. So St. Cloud, Sartell, Sauk Rapids, those. So, I mean, if you wanted to talk about some of those things,
Right, and I think that all needs to be.
for both in town and out of town.
Right.
Oh, excuse me.
My personal feeling is we just leave it the way we're doing it right now until next spring, and in the meantime, we got this fall and this winter to get some ground rules laid out
I agree.
if we're gonna open it.
I agree 100%.
You mean do it like now, like open it back up like we have been all summer, or you mean just keep it closed?
No, just keep it closed. It's open now when city employees are on.
Yep.
Unless somebody comes up with a huge donation to pay somebody to sit at the gate for 4 hours on Saturday, I'm not willing to be paying overtime for somebody to sit up there.
I guess to me, I mean, I don't think aside from the storms, it's not a huge issue, correct?
That is correct. I mean, we do have, from time to time, people come in and bring things, and they're out of town, but, you know, we are the bigger community in the area, and we don't charge people from out of town to come and use the splash pad, and that's kind of the scenario people have been giving me. You know, we still come to the community, and we're a part of a larger community, not really thinking about tax base when they're thinking that. So they're thinking this is our community, and I understand some township officials have been telling people to bring it here, so I think maybe it's an option to reach out to those townships and say, you know, what are your plans? And maybe there can be a spot found out of town. I think there's some options. I don't know, I guess my personal opinion, I don't think we want to keep it closed. People are going to start bringing up grass and leaves and everything this fall, and.
But it's not closed entirely 24 hours a day. It's open.
It's open like it'll be open like 7 to 3:30 during the day.
And no weekend
And no
availability?
And no weekends, and so that's what our issue is here, is that people are calling and they can't get in there because they're working. And that's the problem that we're having, is trying to accommodate those people that are working.
And that's when, up until 2008, that's the way it always was. And then we went on the honor system. And there's times that I've been in there where people are bringing in stuff larger than 6 inches. They're constantly doing it. It's like, well, nobody's gonna catch me, there's no camera back there.
Well, that's true.
But in the big picture, since 2008, which is
13 years.
how much of a problem has it been up until this year?
Sporadically now and then.
Yeah.
But not enough to really cause a huge concern as it has this year.
That-
So, I mean, we have to plan for the future moments where this could happen again, but I don't think that that should limit us to the availability of it still being available to the people who have been using it on a daily basis, who know the rules, and the random few that will break it, that is outside of the norm of a huge storm.
I tend to agree, and I think even, making rules more clear or posting something would be a better option. I mean, I've even seen people go the opposite way. I've got neighbors or people who live close to me who, when the storm did happen, they were going down there and taking larger pieces of wood and cutting it up and using it at their home for fires, or people who are trying to lessen the burden of unwanted things. So, I mean, you might have one extreme, but on the other end, you've got people who are trying to take the issue and bring it the other way. So,
And that's, that's one of the issues that I guess I don't mind if they do, but the pure fact is we wouldn't allow anyone as a private citizen to go onto the interpretive center property to cut down the trees because of city liability. But we're gonna let somebody go into our compost area and pull logs out and cut them into easily handled chunks on city property. To me,
well, you can
you're contradictory.
You can use the compost dirt, and you can take the compost dirt. That's something that's
Right, but
free
I
and
mean, the
available.
logs,
And that's
you hurt
true.
yourself with the chainsaw,
It's a liability
it's a little
issue.
different than wrenching your back trying to pick up a 5-gallon pail of compost, or shoveling a trailer, or a log rolls off a pile because we separated them and then they go in. So, I can see that people could use it, but if we're gonna control the liability on one side, you gotta control it all straight across the board.
I just feel like we're coming in on the back end of what the big problem was, which happened, and I don't foresee it being another issue,
The other
or
thing
continuing issue.
the other thing that I think most of our problem is contractors.
I didn't know that was an issue.
Their major problem. Because we had contractors coming in that Saturday morning from as far away as Long Prairie. Because we were open. They were charging people disposal fees for their trees and then dumping it for free in the city lot. Well, that's pure money for them. They have no expense other than driving it from point A to point B. If we do open it back up, back to the way it was, we send notice to every contractor in the area that you're not allowed to use it. If you get caught in there, you're gonna get fined. We'd have to figure out what it'd be, illegal dumping. But I mean, that goes grass clipping, leaves, brush, no contractors allowed on our site. Because they're basically the ones that ruined it for everybody. And walked away with a lot of money in their back pocket because of no charge. That, I'm only one opinion, but to me, if we open it up, then we notify every contractor. I don't care if they mow 15 lawns or 45 lawns or whatever, they're not dumping in our pile because they can find another place to dump it.
Or we set up a fee.
Or, by next year, we set up a fee, and then if they pay it, they got a permission to come in, but it's gonna be, to me, it's not gonna be cheap.
Right.
So my thought is, it's operated this way for 13 years. We ran into, I would say, an abnormal situation, in which we had 2 major storms, a lot of tree damage that led to this, the drought, as Vicki mentioned, preventing the burning. Yeah, I'd hate to say we just shut it down and limit the hours here at this point. It's worked for 13 years. We just throw our hands up and say, well, this doesn't work anymore just because of an abnormal situation. I think there's a lot of things we can look at moving forward, which is, maybe it is securing that facility to, a code or a card, contractor fee to dump, those type of things. But at this point, I think, we're coming to the end of the season. We can just open it back up as it has been and then look at, establishing those things here in the next 6 months here before we get into the next spring operating for lawn removal and major storm events and those type of things that we'd be seeing, and we can remedy that, but we can close out the year with having that site available to our citizens for their lawn cleanup and any type of tree removal that still needs to be done. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Personally, I like option 2 is keep the limited hours, weekdays only, and then study it, and maybe next spring, open it back up.
Okay. Shalyn?
I guess keeping it going the way it has been going, I think when you make large-scale changes to something, putting the thought into it, I think the disruptive changes going, to the limited hours, putting as much thought into it as possible in the off-season, I think would be the best. And then coming up with a good plan to bridge the gap between what are the needs as opposed to making the changes just reactive from the storms, I think is the best possible solution.
Okay. Heidi?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I also think, I had a thought, and now, of course, as soon as I open my mouth, it leaves me. But the reactiveness of it, yes. I also think that it was put out there boldly and clearly and shared well that it was closed, sending a clear message to those who were not using it legally or by the standards of what the city has set for that, the purpose of that area, that people are aware of it and are watching. So those who try to break the rules from now until snow falls are going to have more eyes on them. So I don't think it'll be a problem until we have an opportunity to address it, maybe over the winter.
Okay.
Well, and there may be other, sorry, I'm jumping in
go
again.
ahead.
There may be other communities that might be addressing this also.
I think so.
Well, Melrose had theirs open for 1 week, and then after that, they shut it down. They don't have a site.
They've got something, I believe they've got something on their agenda for tomorrow evening.
I was going to say, I think this has brought up a lot of discussion about availability of options in the township. Even on the post that the city had on Facebook, shutting it down, how many people piped up that there's got to be more options for township than what there is, so.
Yeah, which, that's township. It's not ours to solve, but we
No.
got stuck with
But
it.
it at least started the conversation
Yeah,
elsewhere, I
yeah.
think.
The one, I don't have a problem with, I guess, I could live with it either way. If we open it up and go back to the way it was, just tell the contractors they're out.
Can we do that? Does there need to be any sort of, City
their
action.
Contractors actually weren't supposed to be in there anyway. But most of them we didn't have, I don't think, in black and white. We just told them we didn't need the extra.
There was always discussion, I am a contractor and I go cut all 5 of your people's lawns and you all 5 use in town and I'm gonna take it down there. Why can't I? It's your grass. There was always, that was the conversation whenever we talked to contractors, but I'm cutting city grass. What's different if 5 of you drive down there or 1 person drives down there? It's the same grass. That's kind of the argument that we got back to us when we were trying to limit contractor use and trying to have it for the residents, because contractors are also bringing it from out of town. How do you know?
Right.
So maybe a permit is the answer for a commercial permit.
Yeah.
But for right now, for the rest of the year, they're not allowed. They're the one, in my opinion, and not, I may be picking on contractors, but they're basically the reason why we got in the situation we did. And I was down there a couple times with my own stuff and seen some of the contractors come in And there wasn't a piece of wood on some of them dump trucks that was smaller than 6 inches. And they just purposely whacked right up and dumped it. And if he said anything, and that day that I was down there helping the police put the barricades up, the people that we turned around that weren't from Sauk Center, the amount of bodily harm threats that both the police and we got because we were shutting it down really sets the attitude for trying to be the nice guy and look at it because there was no reason for it. There's nobody, and that's the reason why even if we had somebody watch over the gate for 4 hours on Saturday, the minute someone comes in and he has to turn them around because they're not from the city limits, some of the people I'd almost fear for that guy sitting there.
But I think then that's where we have the opportunity to discuss moving forward. Nothing's going to be resolved tonight, but all
No,
of these
right.
scenarios, we can mull over and figure it out.
But we need to kind of decide what we want to do from now until we get to that point. Do we have Ben keep doing what he has been, just open during the week, or do we take a chance that we're not going to have the same problem? Because obviously the signs don't mean anything. When you come in with 3-4 loads and it says nothing larger than 6 inches, but your whole truck is loaded with logs and you dump it anyway. And I even seen individual residents going in there with stuff that was larger than 6 inches and they dumped it and says, I'm a taxpayer, I'll do what I want.
On a given year, this isn't an issue, correct?
There's always people that break logs every year. Obviously, this year has been a lot worse because of the storm. But we always have people that sneak some logs in under the brush, like we're not going to know about it. But if it's just a few, like it has been, we can manage that, get enough brush gets hot enough to burn those logs up. We're not really left with a lot at the end of it. So it's been manageable. There's certainly enough of it on a typical year without a storm, but it's manageable without too many extra hours you're taking away from other things that we need to be working on. But I guess that's my take on that, just with the log thing. I will say to what Mary was saying about the people bringing stuff in, I had people from town, that at least they're from town, calling stumps, signs say no stumps. We talked to them about it, you get yelled at about it. It's kind of wild west up there sometimes. I don't know why it has to be that way, but it's pretty simple stuff. If you want a place to dump your brush, your stuff's smaller than 6 inches, your grass and your leaves, then just treat it that way. It's been good. A little abused, for sure.
Oh, Melrose is going to close theirs.
They
We're
already
going to get
did.
all theirs up here.
They opened it, I think, had something temporarily and
Right, but, and to like Ben said, the day we closed it, all you had to do was look at the Facebook post, and there was one guy that posted on there that, of course, they close it when I got a whole load of stumps. Okay, wait a minute, the sign says no stumps.
Right.
But you posted on Facebook that you have a whole load of stumps and you were gonna dump it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a city resident, I know who he is, so it's kind of like, okay, what part of the rules don't,
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's that people just don't understand. They think that they can just bring whatever wood plant debris they have.
the only thing is it's stated on the sign when you get to the gate.
When you get to the gate, but loading up a truck and then getting there and knowing that you can't unload it then causes equal frustration because then you go, oh, I didn't know this rule. And you turn around and now what are you going to do with it?
And, well, that's where they just decide I'm a taxpayer and they dump it and then everybody pays the price for it. So, it's like taking candy away from a little kid. Do you all of a sudden 10 minutes later feel sorry and open it back up and have them have the whole bag? Probably not, but that's kind of it's a kind of a weird comparison, but it's basically what we're doing. They ruined it for themselves.
The new hours are definitely restrictive to many people who follow the rules. So
True.
I feel for those people that have respected it over all these years and take advantage of their weekend off to get their yard work done and all of them are supposed to do the right thing. There's certainly plenty of people that do that. I heard from a number of them, and I fully understand their concerns about the fact that everybody works during the week, we're only open from 7 to 4:30, they can make the calendar. I get that, so that's gonna be the real struggle here this fall, especially if we're gonna be getting into that fall cleanup mode. There's a lot of grass and branches will be coming down on the weekends, so that's gonna be tough. There's definitely gonna be frustration this fall.
What's general consensus? 'Cause
I think option 6, open it back up.
I think so, at least for the remainder of this year, and then we can figure out something over the winter.
Okay,
I tend to agree. I do agree.
It gives us time to really put some thought into something and make sure it's the best solution and not just reactive to what happened this summer.
okay. I can go with that. The one thing is if anybody gets caught down there, I want, I'm not gonna hesitate if I see somebody doing it, be calling the police and having them come down and nail them for an illegal dumping, even if I have to take a picture myself.
Yep.
We reopen this up, but anybody seen down there abusing the system, I want them reported. And I think the community, if they want it bad enough open, will do it themselves.
Mhm.
So,
And I think even, doing maybe something on social media or, whatever, I think would be a valuable thing. I mean,
we'll
Right.
push it on Facebook and stuff like that, but it's just one of those things, it's like,
and even an encouragement to those who were upset about it to make sure they share whatever posts are out there,
yeah.
to,
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, then we'll move on to our consent.
I'm assuming we
agenda.
don't need any motions or, we
No.
just did that general consensus.
Yeah, they
Okay.
just need guidance on what they want to do and
Thank you.
discuss it at another time to get some guidelines set for next year.
Perfect.
Consent agenda, we have scheduled claims, unpaid claims of $459,201.75. Paid claims of $607.32 for a total of $459,809.07. We have August checks, paid claims / payroll for $1,380,930.91. We have a gambling application for exempt permit request from Center Matt Youth Wrestling Club for a raffle on December 30th, 2021 at Sauk Center High School. Is there any questions about the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Shallen. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Informational items, spectrum lineup changes is kind of a every meeting type thing. And
The last thing is the cleanup day, that's the scrap metal and e-waste, electronic waste, which is Saturday, September 18th from 8 to noon at the Civic Arena.
Okay. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Heidi, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.